Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Now, last week we looked at XCountry and getting that franchise up and running, and we had the 4 services. I'm just trying to remember exactly what they are. It was Pruntford to Sunington, Pruntford to Moningpool Falls, Sanley to Gronnwell Superion, and Sanley to Befingway. Now, the start of this episode was originally going to be me creating morning-only services. So, for example, Dendstone down to Pruntford, or Dendstone up to Gronnwell, or Dendstone down to Sanley, Dendstone to Moningpool Falls. Some of those will still happen. I have a really cool title for that video as well, so I want to get that done at some point in the future. The reason being is right now, it's a 7-hour round trip from the depot down to, I think it's Pruntford, up to Sunington, and then back to Pruntford, back to depot. So it's a good long run, and it's the same for the Sanley to Gronnwell route, except I think the Sanley to Befingway route is actually 8 hours in total, which means it's kind of, I think it takes about half an hour to get to Pruntford and Sanley, maybe 45 minutes, and then from there it's like 2 hours up to the other side of the map, 2 hours back, and then, you know, back to the depot. Something like that. It's a long trip, basically. It's a long trip. The longest trips on the network. And I wanted to have a way where, like the first run of the day, basically, where trains will go up to Gronnwell and then run down to Pruntford and then back to the depot, and likewise up to Sunington, back to Pruntford, to the depot. Did I say Sanley from Gronnwell? I think I did. If I didn't, I meant that. And that will come in the future. But what I decided to do for now was work on the cross-region services that still needed to be done. And kind of add an additional one of those every day. Because right now we've got a train to Sanley, a train to Pruntford, 2 trains to Pruntford, actually. I'll tell you about those in a second. We will eventually have 2 trains to Sanley as well. But that won't happen again for a little while yet, because I want to add the rest of the franchises in first, or as much of the franchises as possible, and then come back to cross-region and have another look at it and see what needs to be done. And those additional services will act as the first morning run of the cross-country trains, because there aren't going to be that many people in Dendstone looking to get down to Pruntford first thing in the morning, particularly now as I have the peaks and troughs script in the game. I think it's working. I haven't actually checked, to be honest, but I believe it is in fact working. So in terms of cross-region, there are 5 new services that you see me add on camera today, and there are 7 new services in total. I'm using a mix of stock. So the 2 existing cross-region services, the Dendstone to Moningpool Falls and Dendstone to Sunington, they use diesel-hauled Mark 1 carriages. And most of the, in fact, I think 4 of the new services use DMUs, both 158s and 159s. I haven't put M4J rail liveries of those into the game yet, but I will do so in the future. And then M4J rail liveried 158s and 159s, the Express Sprinters, I think they're called, something like that. They will be operating some services, and then the rest of the services will also be using diesel-hauled Mark 1s. So the ones I've added in today, as I said, we've got Dendstone to Moningpool Falls, Dendstone to Sunington via the Network Central. The Moningpool Falls train runs via Fort Flonwood Parkway in Central, which is along the, I want to say the Cadenbury Direct Line, but that's not it at all. It is the Fort Flonwood, Buntbourne and something railway, I think it is. I can't remember. I need to write. I have written these down actually, but I need to put them somewhere else where I can remember. Anyway, so the first new service I add today is a DMU operated service, and it runs from Dendstone to Honnley Market West, which is on the Country Western line between Gronnville West and Sunington. This one, it kind of takes a bit of a roundabout journey. It runs via the Guard City Great Eastern line. So it goes from Dendstone up through Drenninghead East to Henninghall Junction, Then from Henninghall, it pretty much runs fast, only stopping at Lanningway, Reningbury and Fundingstone to get to Renston Interchange. And then from Renston, it takes the Cross City line, stopping at Daningpool Bridge, Pfeffinghall West, Sondinghead Cross, Gunway Bridge, Plenfing Bridge Tunnel, Ninhill City East, Sladtown South and Hannington. Then it joins up with the Great Western Line at Guard City Great Winfield Airport West Terminal. But instead of staying on the Great Western Line, it branches off again and goes via Wenfingfield South, Longfingpool East, Plardington, Brendham, Garninghead, Prentown, Marnpool, and then terminates at Honnley Market West. If you want to know where Honnley Market West is, one of the last stations on the West Winds Line before Mewood is Honnley Market Mill. So it's that kind of area. It's right up in the northwest. Wow, keep getting everything wrong today. Right up in the northwest corner of the map. Honnley Market West is in fact the last station on the Country Western Line before Mewood South. And yeah, it had a bay platform. I thought might as well use it. We used Canal Street last time out for the cross-country train. Guard City Express terminates at Canal Street, so I thought why not use Honnley Market West for cross-region. I think that was always part of the plan, and originally this service was to terminate at Canal Street, but I decided to extend it up to Honnley Market West, and in doing so I thought instead of using the Great Western route, why not use the branch between Great Winfield Airport and the Country Western Line. That was the plan with that one anyway. Then we've got the Sunington train again. The next one after that then is another DMU operated service, and this goes from Dendstone Carnegie up to or down to Pruntford. And this runs in a very similar way to the cross-country train that starts at Pruntford and runs up through Dendstone. So it goes Dendstone, Hinham, which is on the slow lines out of Dendstone, then Nardworth Falls, Luningbury, Wanborough, which is that kind of weird staggered station that I built about 2 years ago now. And then at Wanborough, it crosses over to the fast lines, stops at Fentown West, Drentbourne Retail, Carfingfield. Then it branches off on that new line that I built last week. Stops at Sayburg and Beddington, or Beddingtown, Little Winton. Then it rejoins the south coast, or it joins the south. I'm just going to choose my words more carefully for this episode because I keep getting things wrong. It then joins the South Coast route and stops at Fetbridge, Larhatton Springs Shore, Carnfield, Tondingstone Springs, which is the big interchange station, Tenhatton Springs, Brewham, Great Slundingstone, Nenningville, and then finally terminates at Pruntford. So this is the Dendstone Carnegie to Pruntford service via Tondingstone Springs. And that second bit there, the via, is very, very important. Because the next service, so to put these in context very quickly, 9AXX is the Dendstone to Monningpool Falls train, 9BXX is Dendstone to Honnley Market West, 9CXX is Dendstone to Sunington, and then 9D is Dendstone to Pruntford via Tondingstone Springs. 9E is Dendstone to Pruntford via Bahecity Central, and this is one... I wasn't sure whether to actually include this or not, but I wanted to have a cross-country / region train, cross-network train basically, that operates down the East Coast main line and terminates at Pruntford that way. And the only way really to get that to work was to get it to run through Bahecity. Otherwise you'd have to run up north and then east and then south again. I think Bahecity is approximately directly east of Dendstone. I'm not entirely sure. You do have to go south to Drentbourne and then up north again to Bahecity and then to Wonnington and then across that way. But anyway, it goes Dendstone, runs directly to Wanborough, then crosses over to Fentown West, Drentbourne Retail. Then it starts running on the Drentbourne to Bahecity line. It stops at Great Pundinghatton. Then in Bahecity itself, it stops at Bahecity Senningbury, Bahecity Central and Bahecity Fort Dronford, the three main stations along the route there. Then it runs on the slow lines from Fort Dronford to Woodington Tranquility, and then I believe it stays on the slow lines to Guntbourne and Warning Hall. Then it crosses over to the fast lines and stops at Nondhead, Hubera South, Keddingston Y, which is the Y-shaped junction, hence the name. And then at Keddingston, it of course joins the East Coast main line and stops at Dudhatton Ridge, Lenborough Bay, Old Town, Bafing Bridge, New Gronnwell Junction, Preston Valley, Tardstone, Carbourne Lakeside, Banlieusard, I always get that wrong. I got an A star in my French speaking, and you wouldn't know it if you spoke to me now in French. I think it's Banlieusard Junction, then Pruntford, Warnwell, Keywood, and then finally terminates at Pruntford. And that is using the East Coast Mainline platforms at Pruntford. So, you know, there's two perpendicular sets of platforms. It uses the north-facing platforms rather than the west-facing platforms. And I thought it'd be cool to have two services go to Pruntford, but not necessarily running parallel to one another like we did with Cross Country. The next set of services, still can't speak. That was a diesel hauled service, by the way, 9E. The next one is 9F, which is a diesel hauled service as well. And this runs from Dendstone all the way down to Sanley Central. And again, it kind of mirrors the cross country train that goes from Dendstone to Sanley. Actually, I'm saying that. No, it doesn't mirror it at all, because the Dendstone to Sanley train actually goes along the route to Tarnway and Funston, I think, then Munfingford, Paragon, and then down through Queen City and onto the south coast that way. This one actually heads to Drentbourne first. So it goes Dendstone, Drentbourne, direct to Drentbourne, doesn't stop anywhere along the way. Then Carfingfield, which is on the route between Drentbourne and the south coast. Then it actually goes to Plenborough and technically terminates, like it goes into Plenborough and then reverses again. So Plenborough, as you know, is a dead end station, and it's got the two south coast branches both terminate there. So it goes into Plenborough and then reverses out again, stops at Pondinghall, Prenville, Praham, Slonwood Shoreside, Sonley Market Harbour, Heffingborough Market, Chindingbury, Corningbury East, Munbourne Cross North, Beddingston, Cutford Valley, and then finally Sanley Central. So apart from the route from Dendstone to Plenborough, it runs entirely along the south coast. So if you're a fan of coastal runs, this is a perfect service for you. And actually this service was a catalyst in finally getting the south coast route up to scratch. So between Pruntford and the new branch that I built last week, that was all brought up to scratch last week, obviously, so that cross-country trains can run backwards and forwards. This week, I finally got the route between Plenborough and Sanley with the new signalling system and everything as well. So technically now we can have trains run from any corner of the map to any other corner of the map via the coastal routes. So for example, Sunington to Sanley, that's now possible via the west coast route. Sanley to Pruntford via the south coast route. Pruntford to Gronnwell via the east coast route. Both sets of platforms from Pruntford up through Bahecity or Drentbourne, or just directly up the east coast to Gronnwell, and then Gronnwell all the way across to Sunington again via the Grand Northern and North Valleys routes, or even the West Winds route if you go in and out of Guard City. So the options are there now to have all these new franchises joining the network. You might notice at Plenborough that I've left some land free in the gaps between some of the tunnels. That's been done specifically to build a depot there in the future for South Coast trains, because I think Plenborough would be a very, very good base of operations for trains running both west to Sanley and east to Pruntford, plus any services from Southeastern maybe that run from Plenborough up to Dendstone and beyond, or up to Guard City maybe, Bahecity, sorry, not Guard City, although there will be some trains from Plenborough to Guard City as well, via the route through Drentbourne. In fact, I think there is a Guard City Southeastern route that's supposed to go from Guard City St Mark all the way down to Plenborough. I don't know if that's going to be happening still or not, but we'll see. Tarnway and Funston at least can join the party now as well, so that's cool. But yeah, that seemed like a really good candidate, and the new way I'm building depots now, it fits in that gap hopefully perfectly, but we'll see. And yeah, the East Coast as well had to be done from Pruntford up to Keddingston. That was another catalyst service, the one down to Pruntford via Bahecity. So that side of things is now done. In terms of the overall four corners of the map thing, I do still need to re-signal the route between Keddingston and Gronnwell. It is technically done, but instead of setting specific speed limits at the moment, I've just got unrestrict speed limit, and I think I've just got the trains themselves control the speed limits. So I will go and convert that to the signals control the speed limits rather than the trains. That shouldn't take too long, particularly with realistic braking now. You just need one signal per side of a junction, which is awesome. And by God, has that been a lifesaver Resignaling routes now is really easy. One of the harder things is actually to go back and change the old signalling system to the new one, because you've got to make sure that everything still works as intended, whereas new ones are very easy to do because they're set up specifically to work in that way. Anyway, the next service we've got is 9GXX, and this is a diesel hauled service, and it is Dendstone to Gronnwell. Now this is quite a long service. It has quite a lot of stations along the route. And this also, like the one above it, has a little reversing section. So this train goes from Dendstone to Slundwood and Ponfingbridge, which is probably the most used non-interchange cross-network station, and that 3 cross-region trains or services an hour actually stop at Slundwood and Ponfingbridge. And it's not an interchange station, it's just a little wayside station, first one out of Dendstone. But it's quite a big town, so I thought, why not? We'll make that part of the network. But yeah, from Slundwood and Ponfingbridge, it then stops at Reborn, Drenninghead East, which is very busy now, Grodtown, Rardstone, and then this is where it has a little reverse section because it actually goes to Henninghall Junction to connect up with terminating services from Guard City, and then it reverses again up the other branch. So there's the branch down to Dendstone, and then there's the branch up to Nuthill. This train uses both, so if it's coming from Dendstone, it will go into Henninghall and then reverse up towards Nuthill City Centre, and vice versa. If it's coming from Nuthill, it will reverse back towards Dendstone. So after Henninghall, the next stop is Befingway Estrella, which currently is just a 2-platform station on this branch line. However, you'll notice again as I'm adding the orders to the train, that when where the current platforms are, they will remain, but then there's the Transrapid platforms, and then there's like a big empty space on top of the tunnels on the Transrapid route. I'm planning on building a new set of platforms on the branch line there, and have that be trains that are going from Henninghall up to Nuthill, for example, will use those platforms, and Nuthill down to Henninghall, and Nuthill even down to the southeast, because there'll be a new branch there too. And then keep the existing pair of platforms and have that specifically for trains from Henninghall running up on a new branch line that hasn't yet been even conceptualized, but that will be the site for that. So you'll either go into the big station on the eastern side of the site, or you'll go into the pair of platforms and continue up the new branch line. It will all be signalled, it will be taken care of, there'll be no issues there. But I just thought it would be cool to keep the existing station, but at the same time build a new set of platforms for the huge influx of services that now operate on this line. We have that a lot, that there are lots and lots of stations now that are starting to struggle with the capacity. Another one is Sanington, which we will get to in a second, on the Great Western route, and also on the Western Reaches South route. The slow platforms, there's only 2 of them, and we have like 6 or 7 services now running through that station on the slow lines. So that will probably get rebuilt at some point to have 2 platforms in each direction. We'll see. The fast platforms I think are going to stay the same because we don't have that many fast trains stop there, and even when we do, they're kind of well spaced out. But the slow platforms definitely might need a bit of rejigging. We'll see. Anyway, from Befingway, this train then goes and stops at Puningville, and then into Nuthill City Centre, and then from Nuthill it continues northeast through Denningston, Marthill City, Pinningville, Rondhead Cross, Sardingstone, Brondinghatton, Grundhead Apollonia Airport, where it connects up with the high-speed line again. This is a station that was rebuilt quite some time ago, actually, and I think it's been signalled correctly. I know the ins and outs have been signalled, but I can't remember if the actual platforms themselves have been signalled. If they haven't, they will be. But that's currently used by a cross-country train anyway, so I think they have been done, but we'll see. And then out of Grundhead, we stop at Cadworth, Fort Gradingbury, Flutborough North, and then I think, actually, is it Fort Gradingbury or Flutborough? One of those is where we join up with the Grand Northern Line. And then we stop at Gunhatton, which is the terminus of the Northern Metro, which again is going to be brought back to life at some point in the future, I hope. And then from Gunhatton, we stop at Slaningville, Pretfield, Brehill City, Nonningpool, and then Rinville, which is where the track goes from 2 tracks to 4 tracks again. And then from Rinville, running along the slow lines, we stop at Chinfingfield, Grindtown or Grindtown, Druntburg, and then we terminate at Gronnwell Superion. This is probably the longest of the new services that have been added in terms of distance and time. But we'll see how that works out. It may not be the case after all. And then the two that you don't actually see me add on camera, mainly because I ran out of space on the screen for all the windows, and I like to have the windows organized by depot. It's one of the downsides to using the larger UI. Obviously, you guys can now see what I'm doing, which is very, very beneficial for that reason. But for me, trying to fit things on the screen, it can be a bit tricky at times. But it's a worthy compromise. To add these last two services off camera, I wasn't actually planning on doing them between recording the video and recording the audio for this. But after I finished recording the video, I was on a roll still. So I thought, do you know what? Might as well get them done. Being able to tailor existing services and existing schedules to be able to fit the new ones, it's actually very, very beneficial. And just having to set a single speed limit for the entire run, apart from the in and out of the depot section, that's also really helpful. The only bit that's now painful is to edit the stop times, but I mean, that's probably the least annoying thing that I was doing originally anyway. So now it's gone from the least annoying to the most annoying. I'd say I'm not doing too bad, really. But yeah, the last two services then, they're both DMU operated. We've got 9HXX first of all, which is the Dendstone to Befingway semi-fast service. Some of these are stopping, some of these are semi-fast. It very much depends on... I've done it by how many stops there are and also how big the gaps are between stops. But I might not necessarily have done it correctly, so I might go back and revisit it. Whether it's semi-fast or stopping doesn't affect anything in the game itself. It's just how I categorize it on the schedule sheet. Anyway... This train starts at Dendstone then, and the first stop is Sunington and Bridge, which now has 4, I think, cross-region services stopping there. So again, busy station. Then north of Sunington and Bridge, we've got Reborn, Drenninghead East, and then from Drenninghead we run towards Bathurst Street via Sinfingfield, Bunway and Mondington. So some of these are similar to the Sunington service, where it goes up through Bathurst Street. I think Mondington is the only station actually after Drenninghead that is the same until Bathurst Street. I tried to have it so that they don't all stop at the same stations, because otherwise there's no point in them existing really, or at least stopping at those stations until they get to it, like another express bit. But yeah, after Bathurst Street we then stop at Nuntown Heights on the Network Central, and then Fort Mark Bridge East, Hudtown South, Cardwood and Tronfingpool, which is where we... normally, if we're on the Sunington train, we would curve west and join up with the Grand Northern heading towards Warnbridge Airport. This time, we continue on the Network Central to Pradston Bay, and then we join the Grand Northern heading east, and we stop at Slet Hill, Ludhead Cross, and then we terminate at Befingway. We have a cross-country train that goes to Befingway via Nuthill City Centre and running up that way. So this one actually goes up the Network Central, so they terminate facing each other really, and they leave one to the west and one to the east. And again, I thought that was a cool thing to do, so you could get to Dendstone in 2 different directions now from Befingway, whereas before I don't think you could get to Befingway at all from Dendstone without changing somewhere, probably Guard City. Now you can do it 2 different ways. So again, just like in the UK, there's lots of different ways you can get from A to B. You can go via C, D, E, F, whatever direction you want to take, and the M4J network is no different. The final service is actually another good one for that. This is the 9JXX DMU operated service between Dendstone and Plindham Junction. Now originally I was going to have a train terminate at Plindham from the north. This time though I've got one that terminates from the south. So this goes from Dendstone. It then heads along the northwest branch out of Dendstone Carnegie, which I think currently is only operated by one Guard City Southeastern service, I think, or maybe a Guard City Southern service. But this goes up to Greffingbridge, then Flonningston, Tarnville, Tarnway and Funston, where it then joins up with the main routes from... Well, it joins up with the southern end of the Network Central from Bathurst Street, but it also joins up with the southeastern main line from GSMA, and also the route from, I want to say, Lenway Rialta, and I think that's correct. I believe so, and also their little branch that comes in from Drenninghead East as well, which actually is the one that goes to Lenway Rialta. So yeah, again, operational flexibility, having trains being able to run on lots of different branches. From Tarnway and Funston, we then have stops at Pentown, Cordinghatton Central, Sunwell and Befingway. So at this point, I think this is the Great Central route again, isn't it? That goes through Cordinghatton Central, and then Sunwell and Befingway, Runton South. So there's a video that I haven't actually uploaded yet to do with Munfingford Paragon and the history of that. And in that video, it mentions something about Runton South. And I've kind of added this service stopping at Runton South, which is on the slow lines only. Bear in mind, we're running on the fast lines most of the time here. But it does stop at Runton South. And the video about Munfingford Paragon actually explains why that is. So I'm not going to tell you here. I'm going to wait for that video to be released. But yeah, after Runton, we then stop at Munfingford Paragon, where we join up with the Great Western Line, with stops at Tunningville, Bahecity Central, and then we cross to the slow lines to stop at Powington Quay and Sanington. We then leave the Great Western Main Line just after Sanington, and we stop at Friham Parkway. So you'll know that we've got the north to south platforms, which are on both the fast and slow lines, but we've also got the east to west line, which only has platforms on the slow lines, and this train is the first one to stop at those platforms. And then from Friham Parkway, we stop at Pronborough, Menningley Market, Peddingbury, all of which are on the west coast route. And then we take that little branch line from the west coast route up to Plindham, and we terminate, I think, and I hope, in the bay platforms at Plindham, if I've signalled it correctly. Fingers crossed on that one. And actually looking at this and listening to me talk just now, it's kind of reminded me of another idea I had for a patch in the game, which is diversionary routes. I think that'd be a good name for it as well. Where if you've got two routes between two stations, and for whatever reason one of those routes becomes quite heavily congested at certain times of the day, then instead of having to set up a whole new service to have a diversion through the other route, maybe have that as a patch that can be added to an existing service. So maybe like an if function, maybe a conditional order even, and just say if this route is currently blocked. I don't know how you would be able to register that. Maybe if so many trains have gone past a certain signal within a certain space of time, then go up this route instead and stop at these stations instead of these ones. And I think, like in real life, the East Coast Main Line has the Hertford Loop between Alexandra Palace and Stevenage, and it goes through places like Cruise Hill, Hertford East, Hertford North. I think it's Hertford North. I think Hertford East is on the Greater Anglia routes. I think that's right. Anyway, the Hertford Loop. And sometimes if there's if the signals are down on the line between Alexandra Palace and Stevenage on the East Coast Main Line, certain LNER and Great Northern trains will get directed through the Hertford Loop instead. And I've actually been on a train. I came out of London like 6 years ago now, and couldn't get a train to Hatfield for, I think they were doing works, so it was like late at night. So instead I got on an East Coast train. This dates this quite nicely. Actually, yeah, I think it was an East Coast train, and went up the Hertford Loop to Stevenage, and then got a lift home from Stevenage. Something like that was kind of the inspiration for this idea. Was say for example, between Dendstone and Tarnway and Funston, you can either go up the main Guard City Great Eastern Line to Drenninghead and then west from there to Tarnway, or you can go up the northeast branch. I keep saying northeast, I mean northwest branch out of Dendstone and go to Tarnway and Funston that way. And which route you take should depend on whether that route is, whether there's capacity, maybe time of day as well, being able to have variations. And calling it diversionary routes would fit that still quite well. Let me know what you think of that in the comments or over on the Discord, or even on Reddit. Any of those three places is fine. I'd really want to get the Reddit more populated again. It's been a long, long time since someone other than me posted on the Reddit community. So if you've got Reddit and you watch these videos and you're a fan of the content, if you're a part of the OpenTTD Reddit community as well, and you've found my videos through that, I have my own Reddit community. The link is in the description down below. Head over there if you want to post screenshots and videos and things like that. Let's get that going, because it's a bit of a ghost town at the moment, and I really don't like seeing no one posting there. But yeah, anyway, I digress. Let me know what you think about these patch ideas. And if you're a developer who makes patches or wants to get into making patches and you think some of these might be viable options, then again, get in touch. Let's see if we can make these. The ones that I pitched last week are the ones I would rather focus on. But if you think this one's possible as well, then let's see if we can actually do it. I think it'd be really, really awesome. Anyway, I think I've talked for quite some time now. Well, we're up to like half an hour almost. So I'm going to start wrapping up the video soon. The footage I recorded was about an hour's worth, so you know, ×2 speed. It's not too bad. Let me know feedback for the videos still, if the UI is fine, if the speed of the video is fine. I've not put music on these for a while now because my voice tends to fill the void anyway. But in the future I might start talking less and letting the music take over a little bit more. We'll see about that. And also ideas for the future. So after this project is finished, and I have still got a little bit more that I want to do with cross country, hopefully by next week, when it's time to record next week's video, I'll have a better idea as to how the cross country and cross region work with each other, and I might come back and do the 1 a day cross country trains. We've only got 4 cross country services right now as well, and I would like to add more. Part of the problem with that is there are some services that I would like to run on lines that don't yet exist, so getting those up and running will be important. But I also want to start looking at freight operations again. So George in the chat for my Foot Manager stream a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about new freight operators in the UK, things like Orion and the stock that they're using. And I can't really recreate that right now because obviously most of the trains they're using are still in the M4J network law. They're still passenger trains. You know, they're still used backwards and forwards on passenger routes. But the idea of having more freight operations is something that I've been sat on for a while now and just wanted to wait until other routes were signalled. So I've actually marked out some areas on the map. There's one up by Gronnwell where a freight terminal was designated, again, about a year ago now when we built the East Coast route down towards Pruntford. I've also marked out an area just northwest of Pruntford where there's a freight only line that will run between the South Coast and the East Coast. And again, that will run through a freight terminal that I've planned there. There's also one that I've planned sort of down in the southwest corner, although I'm not entirely 100% sure where that's going to be yet. Again, if anyone has any suggestions, let me know. And I just want to dot freight terminals, like interchange terminals, all over the map. And then build some freight terminals near industries as well. So there's the big industry that I want to get involved with right now is lumber. So wood, lumber, furniture, goods, that kind of thing, because I think that's going to be a high earner. And also the Guard City South Freight Terminal, the boat connection there actually goes towards a lumber mill and I think a furniture factory as well. So being able to have wood running around the network would be good. I also want to get oil up and running because I think oil's quite a big payer. Right now we've only got coal, iron ore, metal, and goods and manufacturing supplies and engineering supplies and things like that. I will get food and milk up and running again soon as well. So livestock and milk and maybe fibers and things like that too. We've also got recyclables that get turned into scrap metal, which then gets turned into metal, which then gets turned into goods. It's all starting to come together. One of the things I want to look at though is the industry chain in the game, because I think it's changed slightly from the last time I looked at it, and I can't remember how to find it. Oh, there, under industries and then industry chains. So things like wood, you know, that's fairly easy. Bauxite, chemicals, scrap metal, that's also something. Getting mail up and running as well is something that I'm be looking to do. Now that the main routes are up and running as well, we can get express mail running around the network. Things like alcohol as well we can kind of look at. It's kind of looking at the chain from start to finish. So wood to timber to goods, that's one chain. And then livestock to food, that's a chain. I think I started with one of the harder ones, which was coal and iron ore to metal. And then metal to... don't even know where that's gone now. But yeah, metal to goods and supplies and materials and that sort of thing. I think, you know, oil to chemicals or petrol, and then, I mean, chemicals goes everywhere. Metal fabrication plants, aluminium plants, metal workshop, paper mill, plastics plant, glass works, fertilizer plant and timber yard. They all accept chemicals. So getting chemicals up and running will be a real high earner as well. Something else I've done very quickly, last thing I'll say in this episode actually, one thing I've done with the game is I've increased the day length factor. Now I did ask this on the Discord last week, but no one actually replied. I asked 2 questions, one was about peaks and troughs and one was about day length factor. What I have done, so my day length factor I think originally was 5 and now I've bumped it up to 35. And the idea is to try and make an in-game year last longer. So obviously the clock in the bottom left runs at real time. So right now I've got it in my game as 15:15, and in roughly 50 something seconds time it will tick up to 15:16. But the months and years right next to it was running really fast. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was losing so much money, was because my running costs was so high. I'm pressing the wrong thing. My running costs were so high and I just wasn't making any money back, or at least wasn't making money fast enough to cover the running costs and the new vehicles as well. So what I'm going to do instead is increase the day length factor to make a year last longer. The running cost of the train I think is going to stay the same, so I might have to bump that up in base costs just to balance it out again. But try and make more money a year for trains, and then that should offset the new vehicles costs. It should, at which point the company should start making money again. Now this is something I'm doing factoring in the fact that eventually, within the next month or so, I would like to get patrons into the game to operate their own franchises, so I don't have to do it for you. But obviously I didn't want to do that when there was still a likelihood that you would lose a ton of money, because the running costs and things were too high and the new vehicle costs were too high. Because obviously I'll keep bailing out companies to keep them in. It's not like normal multiplayer where once you're bankrupt, that's it. I want to keep these people in because you support me on Patreon, and one of the rewards is being able to run your own franchise. But yeah, let me know whether you think that's a good idea or not. The day length factor so far, I think, is doing what I want it to do, but I'll keep a close eye on it and see where we go from there. And if you've got any ideas for how to get the company more profitable, then feel free to comment down below. And I'm happy to try out any ideas. Anyway, that pretty much does it for this episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a bit of a long one today. I've talked for ages, but we're starting to really get into the nuts and bolts of this series now, and getting trains running all over the place from one corner to another, and just every line pretty much now has a train running on it at some point. Which, I mean, there's a couple of branch lines between Nut Hill and the East Coast that still need to be finished and populated, but that's kind of on the to-do list as well. Maybe cross-country and cross-region could use some of those lines, in which case they'll be more needed than ever. And there's those branch lines out of Grundhead, Apollonia as well that are on the list as well, things to do. If you've got any other ideas as well, feel free to comment them down below. I'm building up a list of things now that I want to get done, and kind of prioritizing in which order I want to get them done in. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. Hopefully I'll get to chat to you all on the Discord throughout the week about ideas as well, and other cool stuff to do with the game and transport in general. But regardless, thank you again for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.